Now that we've mastered a basic cupcake, it's time to get a little more elaborate with chocolate spice cupcakes that have a chocolate swirl frosting on top of that. But also, I include a truffle filling in the center of each cupcake. I've got half a cup of whipping cream here I heated along with 2 cinnamon sticks. These are chocolate spice cupcakes, so any way I can introduce a little spice, I will. So I pour that over 4 ounces of bittersweet chocolate, and I just stir this until the chocolate has melted. And now that this is nice and smooth, I can set it aside to cool and then chill it down completely so I can fill the cupcakes after they've baked and cooled. Now on to the cupcake batter. First, 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm adding cocoa powder, 2/3 of a cup. And I need a teaspoon of baking powder, along with a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Now, this is where I like to get a little creative. I love the combination of chocolate and spice together. So I add half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, but then try and get people to guess that there's Chinese 5-spice powder, a half a teaspoon. So you think of chili pepper and chocolate being common? Well, you accomplish that with the 5-spice powder. I'll just grab a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and then sift that together right into the mixing bowl. And the last ingredient to add to this bowl, 2 cups of sugar. I'll stir this to blend it. And I'll combine all my wet ingredients. First, 2 eggs. Just whisk the eggs to loosen them first before I add a cup of room temperature milk. And I find chocolate cakes are improved by using coffee as part of the liquid. So this is 3/4 of a cup of strong coffee, but it's cooled to room temperature. And instead of using butter, I'm using oil, half a cup of vegetable oil. And of course, where would I be without a little vanilla, a teaspoon of it. I'll start the mixer on low speed, then turn it up on high until it's creamy and smooth. This batter is a lot more fluid than the vanilla cake batter I made for the vanilla cupcakes. So I can simply pour this into my paper liners. When pouring your cupcake batter into your paper liners, it's a good tip to fill them 2/3 full. That way, when the cupcake bakes, it'll bake up to the top of the paper liner. Now, I've preheated my oven to 350 degrees, and these cupcakes, because it's a wet batter, take about 25 minutes. But I use the same tester, the bamboo skewer, to test the doneness. Then I'll let them cool completely, and it'll be time to frost them. I've got my cooled cupcakes. Now it's time to make the icing. I have 8 ounces of soft cream cheese and a half a cup of butter. The butter gives it some stability. I'm gonna add 3½ cups of icing sugar and a teaspoon of vanilla after I beat the cream cheese. I'll add a teaspoon of vanilla while it's mixing. If you ever make red velvet cupcakes, this is the kind of frosting you put on top. But because we're getting fancier, I'm actually going to turn this into a chocolate swirl frosting. So I'm going to take half of it and put it into a bowl and stir in some melted chocolate. I've got 3 ounces of bittersweet chocolate. It's okay if it's still warm. And just stir it into half of the cream cheese filling. Okay, I have to save the swirling for the very end. The first thing I have to do is get the cupcakes ready with the truffle filling. And I use a simple melon baller. First thing I do is I scoop out a little hole on top of the cupcake. Then I'll dip it in a little warm water, and then I scoop a truffle and drop it right into that opening. And I find cupcakes are all about that wow factor. You have to do that little something extra to really catch people's attention. I've got a piping bag fitted, this time with a star tip. I'll take the vanilla frosting first, You want to keep it to one side so I can make room for the chocolate frosting on the other side. Now, if they blend together a bit, that's okay. Now, I pipe out a little bit to start it off. And you can see the chocolate peeking through, hiding that truffle filling underneath. Now that is a cupcake fit to impress.